From gutting a billion-dollar corporation in a single phone call to staring down a man twice her size and telling him her name is the only weapon she needs, Beth Dutton has never thrown a punch she hadn't already won 3 moves earlier.
I'm no lawyer, but I believe it's the Fourth Amendment that deals with unlawful search and seizure.
The search is voluntary.
Sure doesn't look voluntary to me.
Most people on that ranch fight with their fists or a rifle or a branding iron. Beth fights with a smile and a signature, and by the time you realize you've lost, the papers are already filed. So after the last video, half of you were already down in the comments swearing Beth was the real villain of the whole show. And I told you we'd settle it. This is that video. This is every time Beth Dutton destroyed someone. Not insulted, not embarrassed. Destroyed. And I mean, she took the thing that mattered most to them. For some of these people, that's a career. For some, it's a marriage or a company or their standing in the family. And for a couple of them, it's a pulse. We're ranking them by how complete the wreckage was. Here's the thesis I'm going to make the case for over the next 13, and I want you to hold me to it. Beth Dutton is more dangerous in a boardroom than any man on that show is with a gun. The cowboys protect the ranch with violence. Beth protects it with cruelty that's perfectly surgically legal, right up until it isn't. We're counting down from 13, smallest scalp to biggest. And the last one on this list is the single most complete destruction anyone pulls off in the entire series. Subscribe so you don't miss where we put the train station up against real forensics next. But first, let's start with number 13. The realtor at the bar. This one barely counts as a fight, and that's exactly why it earns the bottom slot. It's Beth warming up. Early on, she's sitting alone in a bar, and some out-of-town businessman slides up, buys her a drink, starts guessing why she's in Montana. And in about 30 seconds, without raising her voice, Beth reads his entire pathetic little life back to him. Married, kids, in town on business, looking for someone who isn't his wife, and bad at the one thing he came here hoping to do. She doesn't insult him, she diagnoses him. Then she gets up and takes her money to a better table. Here's what makes it a Beth moment, and not just a good line. She's not performing for anyone. There's no audience, no stake, nothing to win. She does it because reading a man down to his studs is just how she moves through a room. That's the tell for everything that comes after. The cruelty isn't strategic yet. It's reflexive. It's who she is when nobody's watching. Verdict: a warm-up, not a kill. But it tells you the weapon was always loaded. And speaking of men who badly misjudged the woman they were talking to, let's go to a cowboy who thought a bar full of people made him safe. Number 12, the cowboy who ran his mouth. Different bar, bigger crowd, dumber man. A young cowboy starts in on Beth with the kind of lewd talk that's meant to make a woman shrink. When he tells her she'd better be carrying a big pistol if she's going to talk to people like that, Beth tells him her pistol is her name. Beth Dutton. And the kid, who a second ago thought he had the whole bar behind him, just shakes his head and walks away. I love this one because it's the cleanest demonstration of the thing that makes Beth Beth. In that valley, the name Dutton isn't a name. It's a loaded weapon with 100 years of bodies behind it, and everyone in that bar knows it. She didn't win because she's tough. She won because she's a Dutton, and she knows precisely how much that's worth and exactly when to spend it. That's not bravado. That's a woman who has done the math on her own power. Verdict: destroyed by reputation alone, no follow-through required, the most efficient kind. But Beth doesn't only fight for herself, and the next one is the first time we see her cruelty pointed at someone who actually deserved it on behalf of someone who didn't. Number 11, the boutique owner. Beth takes Monica, Case's wife, the gentlest person in the whole Dutton orbit, shopping at an upscale boutique, and the owner treats Monica like she can't afford to breathe the air in there. Looks down her nose, makes her feel small. Wrong move. Beth doesn't make a scene. She makes a transaction. She systematically humiliates the owner, weaponizes money against the exact snobbery the woman tried to use, and walks Monica out with her dignity bought back in full. This is the item that complicates the whole Beth is the villain argument the comment section loves so much. Because here's the truth about her cruelty. It has a moral compass, even if that compass only points at the people she's decided to protect. She is vicious in direct proportion to how much someone hurt the people she loves. The boutique owner hurt Monica's pride, so Beth took the owner's. It's petty. It's also, in Beth's math, perfectly fair. Verdict: destruction as defense. The first time we see the cruelty has a code. And if you want to see that code with the stakes turned all the way up, look at what she does to a woman who came to Montana to take the whole ranch with a protest sign. Number 10, Summer Higgins. Summer's the activist, anti-ranching, anti-beef, anti-everything the Duttons are. She and Beth are oil and water from the jump, and Beth, never one to let a rival just exist, goads her into a brawl that lands them both in jail. The two of them go from a fist fight to a strange, grudging coexistence, but the opening move is pure Beth. Provoke, escalate, and make sure the other person throws the first real punch. Here's my honest read, and some of you won't like it. Summer is one of the few people Beth never fully destroys, and I think it's because Beth respects her. Summer believes in something and won't back down. And underneath all the venom, that's a language Beth speaks. The destruction here is incomplete on purpose. Beth could have buried this woman. She chose to fight her instead, and there's a difference, and Beth always knows the difference. Verdict: a fight, not a funeral. Beth holds back, and that restraint tells you more than any kill on this list. But she did not hold back on the first real enemy the ranch ever faced, the man who thought he could buy what the Duttons would only ever bleed for. Number 9, Dan Jenkins. Season 1. Jenkins is the developer who teams up with the reservation to come at the Dutton land, and he makes the single worst mistake a man can make on this show. He underestimates the daughter. Beth's counterattack is methodical and personal. She seduces him, she wrecks his marriage, and at one point she tells him plainly that when she breaks him, she wants him to understand she's not just breaking a man, she's breaking generations. Then she lures him to a packed honky-tonk and arranges for him to get beaten in front of everyone. This is the prototype. Every corporate war Beth fights for the rest of the series is just this template with more zeros on it. Find what a man loves, his marriage, his name, his standing, and take it, not because you need to, but to make sure he never comes back. Notice she doesn't go after Jenkins' money first. She goes after his home. Because Beth understands something most of her enemies never figure out until it's too late. You don't beat a rich man by making him poor. You beat him by making him hollow, so that even if he keeps the money, he's got nothing left worth spending it on. The real lesson Jenkins teaches the audience is that Beth doesn't fight to win. Winning is temporary. A man who merely loses can regroup, refinance, come back next quarter. Beth fights to make sure there's nothing left to come back to. She salts the earth. And here's the part the show wants you to sit with. She's a little bit thrilled by it. There's a pleasure in her cruelty toward Jenkins that has nothing to do with the ranch and everything to do with the fact that hurting a man who underestimated her is, for Beth, a genuine joy. Verdict: the blueprint. The first total destruction, and the one every other entry on this list is built on. But Jenkins was a man fighting with his own money. The next enemies came with an army, and they made the mistake of touching a child. Number 8, the land grab. This one's quiet, and it might be the most underrated thing Beth ever does. While Market Equities, the corporate giant trying to swallow Montana, is busy buying up every parcel of land around the ranch to choke the Duttons out, Beth uses her position at the investment firm Schwartz and Meyer as her own personal bank and buys the land first, out from under them. Parcel by parcel, she turns the firm's money into a wall around her family's empire. And here's the real-world layer most viewers blow right past. What Beth is doing, using her employer's capital and her inside position to advance her family's private interest, lives in a very dangerous neighborhood legally. Picture it from the outside. An executive at an investment firm is quietly directing that firm's money to buy up land that personally benefits her own family, while she sits on information about a rival's plans for that exact land. In the actual financial world, that's a textbook conflict of interest, and depending on what she knew and when she knew it, it brushes right up against self-dealing and the misuse of material non-public information. Number 7. Willa Hayes. This is the one that should make you sit up, because this is where I prove the thesis. Willa Hayes is the CEO of Market Equities, a woman at the top of a corporation with effectively unlimited money. And Beth, a single person, takes her down without ever touching her. She tanks Market Equities stock, sending the shareholders into a panic. Then she plants incriminating documents that detonate inside the company. By the time the dust settles, Willa Hayes is out of a job, and the most powerful woman in the story has been replaced. Stop and feel the size of that. The whole show, men are reaching for rifles and dragging bodies to the train station to solve problems. Beth solves a problem just as big with a stock manipulation and a leak, and her version doesn't leave a corpse. It leaves a resignation letter. That is the entire argument of this video in one move. The deadliest person in Yellowstone never needs a gun. But let's actually look at how she does it, because the mechanics matter. Tanking a stock to spook the shareholders, then planting documents to discredit the person at the top. That's not improvisation. That's a campaign. She's attacking the one thing a public company can't defend against: confidence. A corporation with unlimited money still answers to a board, and a board answers to a stock price, and a stock price answers to fear. Beth found the soft tissue in a billion-dollar animal, and she put the knife in exactly there. And here's the catch: the show is honest enough to keep. Every weapon she just used has a real name and real consequences attached. Driving a stock down on purpose looks a lot like market manipulation. Trading on what she knew from the inside looks a lot like securities fraud. The men's weapons leave bodies you have to find. Beth's weapons leave a trail any half-awake regulator could pull on with a subpoena and a weekend. She is, at this exact moment, the most effective and the most exposed Dutton on the entire show. And that tension is what makes her the most interesting person in it. Verdict: a billion-dollar CEO destroyed by one woman and 0 bullets. The high watermark for the thesis. But Market Equities didn't take that lying down. They sent a predator named Rourke, and Beth declared a kind of war she'd never fought before. Number 6. The Beck brothers. The Becks are different. They're not corporate, they're vicious. And they cross the one line that turns Beth from cruel into lethal. As part of their war on the family, they have Beth's office attacked, her assistant is killed, and Beth herself is brutally beaten. And worst of all, they put their hands on Tate, the family's child. From a hospital bed, swollen and barely able to see, Beth makes them a promise. She's going to kill them. And here's the shift that makes this one matter on the list. Up to now, Beth's destructions have been about pride, money, marriages, power, things you can take from a man and still leave him breathing. The Becks taught her that some enemies can't be ruined, because ruin assumes the man has something left to lose and the decency to fear losing it. The Becks had neither. So the cruelty graduates here. It stops being about making a man watch his life come apart and starts being about making sure he no longer has one. This is also the moment the show quietly tells you who Beth really is. She doesn't make that promise out of fear, and she doesn't make it in heat. She makes it cold from a hospital bed with her face still wrecked, which means she's already done the calculation. To Beth, a threat against the family's child isn't a crime to be answered. It's a line that, once crossed, removes the option of mercy entirely. When the Becks touched Tate, they didn't make an enemy. They signed something. Verdict: the moment her cruelty turned terminal. Destruction with no survivors planned. But the most painful destruction on this list isn't an enemy at all. Before we get there, there's one more outside predator who learned that the Dutton Ranch has its own way of disposing of the men who come for it. Number 5. Rourke Morris. Rourke is the smiling hedge fund killer Market Equities sends in, all charm, fly fishing in the river like he already owns it. He's the one who escalates the corporate war into actual attempts on the family's lives. Now, I'll be straight with you about the credit here, because this channel doesn't fudge facts. The famous rattlesnake in the cooler, that's Rip's kill, and it's the most creative one on the whole show. But the war that put Rourke in the ground was Beth's. She's the one who refused to be bought, refused to be scared, and made it clear that a man who comes for the Duttons doesn't get to leave Montana the way he arrived. What I want you to notice is the partnership, because it's the engine of the whole show. Beth is the strategist. Rip is the instrument. She decides who has to go, and the ranch's century-old machinery makes it happen. No warrant, no trial, no trace. Rourke thought he was playing a financial game against a rancher's hot-headed daughter, the kind of game he'd won 100 times in glass towers. He never understood he'd wandered into a blood game against a family that's been quietly winning it since before his bank existed. He brought spreadsheets to a fight that ends in a river. And here's the judgment that earns Rourke this spot over the corporate suits below him. The men Beth destroys with paperwork get to keep breathing. Rourke is the moment the two halves of the Dutton arsenal, Beth's mind and the ranch's violence, point at the same target and pull together. He's proof that Beth doesn't have to choose between the boardroom and the bunkhouse. She has both, and a man who survives her stock trades can still end up disposed of like any other problem the family decided it was done with. Verdict: the predator who became prey. Beth marked him, the ranch finished him. But the deadliest version of Beth isn't the one who marks a man for death. It's the one who sits across a table and makes a deal, which brings us into the top four. Number 4, Caroline Warner. Caroline is the one who finally matches Beth's energy. The new Market Equities CEO who walks in announcing she's never early and never late, that the world adjusts to her. And for a while, she's right. She's smarter than Willa, harder than Rourke, and she comes to the table with a real threat. She knows about Beth's insider trading and market manipulation back at the firm, and she's willing to use it. For the first time, someone has Beth's own paper trail in hand. This is the chess match the whole corporate arc was building toward, and the reason it's so high on the list is that Caroline is the first enemy who isn't a fool. Willa panicked. Rourke got cocky. Caroline does neither. She comes in with leverage Beth can't laugh off, because it's true. She really does have the receipts on Beth's insider trading, and she's perfectly willing to hand them to the authorities if Beth pushes too hard. For the first time in the entire series, someone has located the fuse on Beth's bomb and is holding a lighter next to it. That changes the whole nature of the fight. Beth can't simply out-cruel Caroline, because cruelty doesn't work on someone who isn't afraid and isn't sentimental. What develops between them is a cold mutual respect. Two women each holding the other's worst secret, circling, neither able to fire without getting hit back. On this show, that's more dangerous than hatred, because Beth only goes all the way to the bottom of the bag for someone who could actually beat her. Caroline forced Beth to stop improvising and start planning something perfect. And the detente they reach isn't peace. It's the quiet before Beth pulls the single most beautiful destruction in the series, which is exactly where this list ends. Verdict: the worthy opponent held to a draw and set up for the kill. But before Beth's masterpiece, we have to talk about the destruction that cost her the most, because it's family. Number 3, Bob Schwartz. Bob was Beth's mentor. The man who ran Schwartz and Meyer, who taught her the financial knife work she uses on everyone else, who was as close to a father figure as she had outside of John. And when the attack came, and when the family was bleeding and the firm could have stood by her, Bob abandoned her. He chose the company, and Beth does not forgive that. So watch what she does, because it's the coldest thing on this list. When Market Equities later needs her cooperation, she names her price. And it isn't money, because money was never the point with Beth. She demands the controlling interest in Schwartz and Meyer, not to run the firm, not to profit from it, As far as the show lets us see, she wants it for one reason above all, to fire Bob herself. She takes over an entire investment company so that she can be the one standing in the room when his life's work is taken from him, looking him in the eye while she does it. Think about the patience that takes. She didn't lash out when he abandoned her. She waited, kept the wound, and engineered a situation where destroying him became a line item in a corporate negotiation. That's not anger. Anger is fast. This is something colder and far more frightening. A debt she intended to collect in full, on her schedule, with interest. And the lesson sits right there for anyone watching closely. To Beth, loyalty is the only currency that matters, and betrayal isn't a disagreement. It's a death sentence she's willing to spend a fortune to carry out. Verdict: the most personal corporate kill ever filmed. She bought a company to fire one man. That's Beth's heart, laid bare. Loyalty is everything, and betrayal is unforgivable. And that's exactly why the number 2 slot belongs to the brother who betrayed her worst of all. Number 2, Jamie. This is the war that runs the entire length of the show, and it's the one Beth fights with the most hatred and the least mercy. She and Jamie have despised each other since they were teenagers. Since the worst day of Beth's life, when Jamie took her to end a pregnancy and, without telling her, signed away her ability to ever have children. Everything Beth becomes, the cruelty, the armor, the scorched earth instinct, you can trace a straight line from that betrayal. Her competence is grief that learned to fight back. So when she tells Jamie she's the tornado and he's the trailer park in its path, she means every word, and it isn't a threat. It's a weather report. She spends years dismantling him with a patience that borders on devotion. His confidence, his standing in the family, every grab he makes at power, she's there to slap it out of his hands, not once but over and over, until tearing Jamie down stops looking like revenge and starts looking like a hobby. She enjoys it. That's the uncomfortable truth the show never flinches from. Hurting Jamie is one of the few things that brings Beth something like peace. And in the final stretch, when she finally gets the leverage that can end him completely, she doesn't hesitate. Because for Beth, this was never really about the ranch. The ranch was the excuse. This was about making the brother who took her future understand, slowly and permanently, that she would take his in return, one piece at a time for as long as they both lived. Here's my read, and it's the through line of this entire list. Every cold, brilliant, ruthless thing Beth Dutton ever did to anyone else was rehearsal. Jamie is where all of it was always aimed. He didn't just wrong her, he built her, and then he had to live inside the thing he built. Verdict: the longest, cruelest, most personal destruction in the series, and the one that explains all the others. Jamie didn't create an enemy, he created Beth. But the most complete destruction on this list, the one with no survivors and no comeback, isn't fought with hatred at all. It's fought with a smile, a plane ticket, and a piece of paper. Number one, the rattlesnake deal. This is the masterpiece. After a whole war with market equities, after Willa, after Rourke, after Caroline's threats, Beth ends the entire thing in a single move, and most of the people in the room don't even realize it's happening until it's already done. She quietly flies out to meet market equity's biggest rival and sells them her controlling interest in Schwartz and Meyer. But here's the blade hidden inside it. Before she hands over the company, she takes all the land the firm holds around the ranch and locks it into a conservation easement, permanently. It can never be developed, ever. Think about what that does. In one stroke, the airport is dead. The city market equities wanted to build is dead. Every lawsuit they had pending is suddenly pointless because you cannot sue your way onto land that is legally forbidden from ever being built on. Caroline Warner, the worthy opponent, the one enemy who matched her, gets sent back to New York with nothing. Beth didn't outfight market equities. She made their entire reason for existing in Montana legally impossible, and she did it with the most boring instrument in the legal world, a land easement. And this is the real-world payoff that makes it genius instead of just dramatic, so let me actually explain why it works. A conservation easement is a real permanent legal restriction a landowner places on their own property, giving up the right to develop it forever in exchange for tax benefits, and crucially, it runs with the land. It doesn't matter who buys the property next, or what a court says, or how many lawyers market equities throws at it. The restriction is baked into the deed for good. So when Beth locks that land down before the company changes hands, she isn't winning an argument about the land. She's removing the land from the argument entirely. You cannot litigate your way onto dirt that is legally forbidden from ever holding a building. That's the move. Real ranchers use easements every day to protect family land and ease the tax burden. Beth took that quiet, almost boring instrument and turned it into a weapon that ended a billion-dollar invasion in an afternoon. No body, no bullet, no train station, just a woman who understood that in the modern world, the deadliest weapon isn't a gun. It's the right document, signed in the right order, at the right moment, by someone who read 3 moves further than everyone else at the table. Caroline Warner, the one enemy who matched her, the one holding Beth's own secrets, gets sent back to New York with nothing, beaten by a paperwork maneuver she never saw coming. That is the whole thesis of this video, sitting at number 1 exactly where it belongs. Verdict: the perfect destruction. In the show, it's total, permanent, and completely legal. The day Beth Dutton proved she could win the whole war without firing a shot. So there it is. 13 times Beth Dutton destroyed someone, and I'll stand by the order. The cowboys on that ranch protect the Duttons with violence and bodies and a place at the bottom of a ravine where men disappear. Beth protected them with stock trades, leaked documents, a bought and buried company, and a land easement that ended a billion-dollar war in an afternoon. She is, with no contest, the most dangerous person in the Yellowstone universe, and the most dangerous thing about her was never her temper, it was her paperwork. Here's my one question for you, and I actually want the answer, because last time you flooded the comments and I read everyone. Of everyone on this list, who's the one person you think actually deserved what Beth did to them, and who didn't? Because I've got a feeling you're going to surprise me on Jamie. And if you want to know whether any of this would survive contact with the real world, whether Beth's stock manipulation, the train station, the whole Dutton operation could actually beat a real investigation, that's the video sitting right next to this one. We put the ranch up against real Montana law, level by level, and the verdict's harsher than you'd think. Go watch it. I'll see you out there.